We have 49 enrolled in the class. We've got about 150 on the Facebook group. So I'm really thrilled with the group that we have, and those of you that are making the effort to show up face to face. But since it's taped, it doesn't matter. You can come back later tonight or tomorrow or next week. And we had people join after class last week, and they watched the recording on tape. That shows how old I am. They watched the recording and they're caught up, and they'll be with us tonight. So that's great. But even more important than the number of people we have is the level of participation. Those of you that are sharing your work on the Facebook page know that there's a really great dialogue going on. There's a core, and maybe this core here probably is, that are showing their work, and we're just discussing your work, and everybody is being so supportive. We have artists of all levels, and I'm getting the message from people that don't feel real secure and they're a little bit intimidated that they're feeling comfortable with this group, and that's great. There are artists in this group that are much more talented than I am in putting a picture on a piece of paper, and I find that I understand that intimidation. I've got it too, but we kind of have to let that go, and kind of for the good of the group, and all pull each other upward, and we're doing a great job of that. So I'm going to switch over and go to some slides.
Jeff, one thing, if anybody wants to have me post any of their work up on the Da Vinci website, I'm glad to do that. They can get it to you, and then I can do that.
That'd be fantastic. And let's introduce Mark. Mark is the president, is that correct, president?
Mm-hmm.
Of the Da Vinci Pursuit, which is I like to call it a think tank, but I know it's more than that and different than that. But it's a group that, take a minute, just explain what you do.
We use artists and scientists to connect together to be curious about the world. That's the best description. So we use the arts to get to science.
And they're the ones that are paying for this class. So that's why I'm so appreciative.
Well, we're so appreciative of all of you for joining. But seriously, send Jeff a note if you would love to have yours photo posted on the website. It helps us promote the class.
That'd be fantastic. Thank you so much, Mark. So,
you're welcome.
That is not a slide. I just got that camera online. I meant to get slides up. That is that's the prize for doing your homework. That is it's a journal. This camera works so much better close up. But this is a journal that I made. It's an accordion book. It's got really nice paper, 110-pound all cotton paper, so you can paint in it. Nice marble end papers. But this is the prize for participating, being part of the sharing, doing your homework and sharing on Facebook. And we'll have another similar prize next week. But we're gonna, at the end of the class, you gotta stay to the end, and you must be present to win. At the end of the class, we'll be sharing that with someone. All right, let me get to the slides. Don't know whether to wear my glasses or not wear my glasses. The person trying to get in got in. One more time, I'm struggling a bit. It's not me, it's the technology.
That's absolutely right. There's no such thing as an inanimate object. They all have minds of their own. Have you not realized that not yet?
There we go, I say, still struggling. Well, those were in order when I set them up. Isn't that interesting? There you get to see the whole lesson. I printed that today, isn't that pretty? That is weird, because that was the first tile. Well, we're not gonna have tiles for a minute. No big deal. So, the first thing I want to talk about is, I'm gonna go back to that other camera. I got a lot of questions. I'm responding to questions, that's what we're doing now. And I got a lot of questions about cameras. And I'm going to remind you, my role here is a facilitator. I'm telling you what I do. I want to hear what you do. The Hive has much more knowledge than I do alone. And I don't even know if I'm an expert. I've just been doing this for a long time. So when people ask me about cameras, I can share what I carry and what I use, but there are absolutely going to be better suggestions, I'm sure. And one of the things that we need to bear in mind, a nature journal can be anything. So if you're not comfortable drawing, the camera is a fantastic tool just to simply take pictures and print them out, cut them out, and slap them in your journal. So there are two cameras I shoot with. This is my field camera. This is an Olympus Tough. The idea is that it's tough. You can beat it around. I have. I've dropped it. I've thrown it. I've owned 3 of these and worn some of them out, which maybe says, I don't know. I like that. I keep coming back to them. But they're great because they're completely waterproof. And as most of you know, most of my field work when I go way out in the field is in canoes. And I did a lot of upstream work where I'm in the water a lot. So it's nice to have a waterproof camera hanging off your gear, grab and take pictures. So this is an Olympus Tough. I forget the numbers. It's a 6, TS6, TG6, probably TG Tough, wouldn't it be? Got lots of modes. It shoots as well as my my Canon Rebel, which we'll talk about in a second. It doesn't, you don't have interchangeable lenses, but you can override anything. You can use it like a real camera. It's not just a point and shoot. It's got a remote control on your phone, which I use a lot. It's a great camera. And I've half of mine just to throw it over my shoulder, show you how tough it is, but can't do that. And then this is the camera that I think a lot of us probably carry around. This is a Rebel, a Canon EOS, regular old Canon. I shoot almost completely all the time with this 50mm lens. I think it's a fantastic lens. It's inexpensive, and I love it because it provides you really a huge amount of control over depth of field. It's got a huge aperture, so you can do those pin tight focuses with everything else out of focus, which I really enjoy. It's great for my studio shots, but I like it in the field too. I've played with long lenses to take pictures of birds particularly, but I find that in the price point I'm willing to pay for glass, for lenses, I can't shoot birds the way I want to. So I rely on other people's photographs for my reference work. So I certainly carry these both around a lot. They both take a beating. I guess and I want to turn, since we've got the mics on, I'd really like to turn this around as a discussion. So in what ways do you see using a camera to benefit your field journal work or to help you to be an assist or to help with your field journal work? So somebody jump in.
I feel like I did take a picture of the bush that I had got that I had been sitting there journaling, and I took a picture of it too. And I think it was good when I came back and put color in and things like that. I was able to go back and reference
Fantastic.
what I had in the picture.
So you shot a reference photo. Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Anybody else? What else? Why else would a camera be a good benefit for nature journaling?
I like it for color reference later on.
Okay.
And I think maybe for some of us, and I know a lot of you are artists and stuff, I am not an artist, but I love nature and I want to learn as much as I can. So for me, a camera or some picture helps me to journal because I might get better, but that is certainly not my gift. But absorbing all the stuff that is in nature is just something, I'm like a sponge. And that's why that can help me journal. And I'm just starting. I mean, Jeff knows I was in his class before all this happened and was just starting to get into it. But that's how I get better at it. So while I might not be an artist, when I draw, I see it and it goes here. And then I retain it. I guess that's the way I want to say it.
That's when you're talking to whoever's pulling that up here. And when you draw, you do increase your understanding of the things that you're
team of more than 5,000 doctors from over 2,000
in your head.
looking at it.
Hey, Jeff, we can't understand you.
Somebody has their TV on, I think.
Yeah.
some kind of chatter going on.
We're starting to look like a Saturday Night Live skit.
Yeah.
Mute everybody for a second, and then if whoever's doing has something on, take care of it. I'll unmute it, and I can say what I'm saying without waiting for it. Is that a plan?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess the two things I want to say is there's a cognitive connection between, and I know this is true because I taught reading and writing a lot. If you take notes with your hands, you're making connections. That physicality of taking notes, in this case, drawing and journaling and taking notes, attaches to the knowledge that you already have, the cognitive map that's in your head. And the way that we remember things, the way we sort things is we file them by connecting them to the things that we already know. So drawing and writing and keeping a journal is really powerful in making connections between what you're learning and seeing and attaching to your schema, to the things that you already know, the things that are in your head. The other question I want to ask, and I'm going to unmute you when I do this, if I can remember what I was going to ask. Oh, I know. I'm going to say, actually, I don't want to say it because I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm going to ask it, but it's not much different. Is there, when you're looking through a camera lens in the field, does that give you the same kind of pinpoint focus on the detail, the small things, as when you're drawing or just walking around taking notes? So I'm going to unmute you and let's talk about that.
I tend to take a lot of pictures when we are out. We've been taking lots and lots of walks and hikes since everybody's been home. And I take lots of pictures so I can go back and see what I kind of revisit what I saw. And that is sort of then what motivates me, whatever my journal entry is. I think I'm approaching it maybe not the way I should, but then I have the reference photos and then I use that jumping point.
Well, my thing is I want to draw and I want to paint birds, and birds don't sit still.
Right.
So if I take that photograph, then I can work from that.
And we're going to come back to that too when we talk about drawing birds today, because John Mayer Laws talked about that birds don't sit still. So you've got to go in with a basis of knowledge before you even see them. Thank you.
Earlier this week, someone shared that one of their tools they carry is like a loop, or I associate it with being a loop. It's like a hand magnifier. And if you don't have one of those, I can see the benefit in taking an image and then later zooming in on those details. If if those are important for you to get the detail in the veining of a leaf or detail of feather pattern or those kinds of things.
And that, absolutely. And that, the Tough camera I showed you, the Olympus Tough, has a microscope mode where you can get, I mean, it's not truly a microscope, but you can get really, really close to things and get an entire different impression. So yeah, that's valuable. And I think changing up the scale is really important. It's, again, to challenge your brain and make you look at things differently.
Mm-hmm.
Today in the lesson, John Mayer Laws had us draw birds. Once we drew 3 birds, and he said, now draw one a completely different size. Because of course, I had, and I'm sure everybody else had drawn them all exactly the same size. We'd fall into that pattern.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so are people using cameras in the field?
Yes.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Not yet, but I think I will. I think I will pull out my cameras now. Yeah, I think it's can help me.
It's valuable.
Mostly I have the binoculars on my face all the time. So it's kind of like I can only do one thing at one time. So it's hard. I guess it's just what your interest is. And for me, I mean, I love to be outdoors, but my focus for me now is absolutely learning birds and their behaviors. And so, I'm not sure what's going to work. I'm going to try different things.
Well, that's what it's all about. Warren, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say when I like the camera, well, A, I'm not much of an artist, but B, I also like the tag information that's stored by the camera, as far as time and date and location. And, so with all of that available to me, that I'm getting a little older, so I don't necessarily remember to write down all that information. But
yeah, aren't we all?
I like using it for using my macro stuff to be able to really get into the details that I don't see with my naked eye when I'm out in the field. I will look at it and see some things, but I'm always taking a macro shot and getting home going, oh, I never noticed that there was an ant crawling around in there or something like that.
Absolutely.
Or maybe an ant on a peony. You might not see it with the naked eye, but it later, if you took it with a 50 millimeter camera lens, you'd see the little ants on a peony bud.
We'll see those soon here, aren't we? All right, so I'm looking at my notes and I don't have the next screen. I don't know where they went. But the next one I want to talk about themes. This is another thing we can brainstorm about. But people are asking me often about what do you journal about? And I have a particular problem in that when I go out in the field, I have my binoculars and I have my art kit and I'll have a camera and I have my bag and I'll get out hiking, and then I get in my head that I don't want to miss anything and I don't want to stop moving and I don't want to stop and observe. And I find myself moving all day and never really stopping to make the kind of observations I want to. And the camera's good for that because I take a lot of pictures. I can go back and look at those. But if you go into the field with purpose, with an assignment, so to speak, I think you're more likely to stop and do whatever it is that you observe, the things that you want to look at. So I had a chart that's gone. I will post them. They've got to be on my computer somewhere. But themes, and these are really simple themes, and I can remember a lot of them off the top of my head, but like to compare and contrast. And I talked about that when we did the flower dissection. If you saw that mini lesson during the week, we took several different flowers and we dissected them and talked about what the parts were, and then did some comparing and contrasting, or at least opened the door to compare and contrast between all those different flowers and how the structures vary between flowers. So I think comparing and contrasting is a great thing. I could have sat down, I didn't, but I could have sat down that day and drawn the tulip and the daffodil and viola, and I had one other flower, I don't know what it was. But I could sit down and compare and contrast those and draw those parts and then make some inferences and then, do the research to test those inferences. Excuse me? Okay. Another great way to really maximize your time journaling in the field is to look at change. So you can go out in the spring's the best time to do this. Go out and find a flower that's budding and draw that bud, and then go out in 3 days and draw it again, and go out in 3 or 4 more days and draw it again on the same page, so that you can see how that plant is emerging and evolving. And you could fill a plate with, or a page with things like that. We can compare and contrast leaves and start talking about leaf structures. Can you think of other different assignments you could give yourself when you go out in the field so that you have something you're looking for and use your time meaningfully?
Kind of like to chronicle my garden throughout the course of the spring. So that I remember every year what's going to come up, because I always forget what I planted. There's always these tombstones left behind for dead flowers when I planted something and I put that little marker in that says what it was.
Sure.
And then it's dead the next year and I don't remember it was there anyway. But I like chronicling as the weeks go on, which of my flowers are going to show up. And it helps me to look forward to it, especially this year. It's been really awesome to say, oh, you know what, in about a week, my tulips are going to come up or whatever. So I think that's one thing I'm going to be doing this year, this spring, since we started this, is each week or maybe every couple of weeks, I'm going to start paying attention to and sketching and photographing those plants as they start to come up so I can appreciate it as we go on. So it'll be a month, April's these flowers, and May will be these flowers, and June will be these flowers. That's going to be fun.
That's fantastic.
Maybe if you picked some sort of theme like a color, if you did lots of different things that were the same color or a feeling, maybe lots of things that you felt evoke peace or something.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I do too.
It's kind of broad, but.
No, but even things of a color.
Excuse me, Ben?
Right.
Yeah. We have a new colt on the farm, and I was thinking of drawing him and how he changes.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, because he was born on Mother's Day.
Any other ideas?
One of the things that I've been recording, Jeff, is the seed leaves of the seeds that I've planted,
Right.
so that in the future I can go back and identify the seed leaves from weeds that are coming up around them.
We've all had that battle, haven't we? Another one, and this is an old science. I'm an old science teacher, so it's an old science lesson. But we used to give kids hula hoops or something, and then we'd go out in the schoolyard in the grass and just toss it somewhere, and they had to figure out what populated that area. And I think there's a lot of material that could be done that way. Pick a square meter, a square yard.
John Muir talks about that in his book. He had like a piece of string that he would just lay down on the ground, and whatever was inside of the string, that's what he would draw.
What, the journaling book?
Yeah.
It's been a minute.
Something I've used with my students at the university is get those 12-inch rings that you can macrame or whatever that you get in the craft store, and then they just toss. What I have them do is toss them out in the field, and wherever it lands is what they have to draw within whatever that is.
That's fantastic. And you could do that in all kinds of different environments.
Yeah.
Thinking about the shoals along a river, they look pretty lifeless, but I have a feeling if you toss that hoop out there and get on your knees, you're going to see a lot of things going on.
You are. It just causes you to focus.
Right. And that's what I lack in the field. My best day of journaling was when I got a prickly pear stuck in my pants. I didn't know they were growing in this environment, and I felt this sharp pain and looked down. This was in North Carolina. I looked down and it was sticking out of my pant leg, and suddenly I saw them everywhere. It stopped growing. So fantastic. I had other ideas. I don't remember what they were, but we can come back to that. But I think having a theme or having an assignment for yourself when you go out in the field is a big help. So I think I can go back to my slides now. No, I cannot. Yes, I can. All right. Give me 1 minute. Got to stop panicking and thinking these things aren't working. Okay, so my book recommendation this week, and this is the book that started me drawing in the field. And I have a really soft place in my heart for Kathy Johnson because I really like her drawing books. They're kind of old school. And this, I don't remember when I bought this. And this might be a reprint. I lost my copy and had to buy another one. This is 91. I guarantee it was before that. Well, maybe a bit about that. My kids were little. So the Sierra Club Guide to Sketching in Nature. And I think really the cover shows it all because she's showing the same scene in different media. And she draws with pencil and marker and pen and paint and colored pencils. And she goes through a really in-depth exploration of all those different media and work in terms of sketching nature. And I think the word sketching is really important. And as artists, most of you probably know that, but sketching is loose drawing. John Muir Laws talked a lot today about don't ever draw a solid line when you're planning your drawing because your mind will lock into that and suddenly you'll be drawing around that solid line. You've got to get things laid out in proportion with really soft sketched lines first. And I think this book really gives you the tools to do that. She also, she just gives some really good ways to see things. She talks about, this is really the first time I looked at gradient and contrast and really learned to think about controlling that rather than just drawing form. He grew up as a kid drawing form and getting those things right. And this is what made me begin to see the light rather than just the form. I'm flipping through the book under a camera that's not on. That's not helping you a bit. But anyway, I highly recommend this book and some of her other books. We may talk about another one. And of course, we've been talking about John Muir Laws. His 3 books are all fantastic. So I do recommend any of those. Oh, there's the camera slide. This is craziness. All right. Let me get out of that since it's not helping us. Back to looking at me. Websites. Well, those were on there. apologize. No, I don't need to, you understand. All right, so obviously I'm going to talk about the John Muir Laws website. I don't want to talk about John Muir Laws all the time, and next week maybe I'll make a goal not to talk about it. But it's a great resource. He puts all his lessons on there. They're all free. He responds to emails. He's got a great Instagram page. I think he's a really great guy in the way he gets the information out there. Writes good books. Some of them are available in PDF. We talked about that. He's not in it for money. He's in it because he really loves what he's doing. This second one, the John James Audubon Birds of America website. It's the Audubon Society has scanned Birds of America, the giant book of engravings by John James Audubon, painted engravings. And it is incredibly high definition. I'm not sure how large these images are, but you can blow them up and see every feather, every line. And they print beautifully. So I really recommend that you go to that and just explore it. It's fantastic. The third one has got the worst link in the world. That's my YouTube channel. I'm not even going to tell you to look at that. I think you're better off if you get on YouTube and just look for Jeffrey Davis Nature Journaling, and you'll get all the materials that I'm producing for this class as we go. So this will be here tomorrow after I edit some of it out. I like to edit the beginning out of it because there's a lot of chatter. So after I get that editing done, this will be on my YouTube channel. I did a mini lesson last week, that one about dissecting flowers. I'm going to do another mini lesson this week about putting supplemental material in your journals. It's a bookbinding class for nature journalists. Make it more interesting. So on my bookbinding class that's being developed right now, those materials are there too if you're interested in that. So those are my 3 websites this week. I was totally lost in the Audubon website when I found it. I carved and carved and carved from those paintings. Fantastic resource. Come on. Anybody have any questions or comments? You're awful quiet. If I'd known you were this quiet, I would have had mics on last week.
Sorry.
All right.
My
So
boys are not quiet, so I'm trying to keep it muted. Sorry.
all right. So Brad Field, are you out there? I saw him come in. He may not be. Well, he's here.
I am.
Hey, Brad. Brad and I had some discussions today about paints. He was watching John Muir Laws as I was, and Brad's an accomplished watercolorist, and we got to know each other when we were artists in residence at the Hamilton or at the Fisher's Library, and he had work hanging there. And so we were talking today about watercolors, and that's what I wanted to talk about in class today. I want to back up a little bit and tell you I loved watercolor. I am not an accomplished watercolorist. This is not my medium. It's a medium I have a lot of respect for, but I really was glad Brad was around to ask some questions today. This is what I'm doing right now in watercolors. This has nothing to do with nature journaling, but I'm restoring old engravings. This was, and it looks much better in person. This camera is not true to, no camera. But this was an engraving that was in a book for the Centennial Exhibition of Philadelphia in 1876. I scanned this engraving and I cleaned it up and made some corrections. I had a plate made, I had it reprinted, and then I'm hand coloring these. I do a lot of my artwork is for the Early American Life crowd. Early American Life magazine has a series of art shows that I'm involved with, and they endorse my work. So this is what I'm doing in watercolor right now. It has nothing to do with nature. But so anyway, I bought this kit just to teach, to show to people that are taking this class. So this is the Cotman watercolor kit made by Winsor & Newton. It's not to be confused with Winsor & Newton. Winsor & Newton paints are the high quality paints. Cotman are the student grade paints. And in talking with Brad today, I think they might even be less high quality student paints than they used to be. But this kit's amazing. It's meant to go in your field bag. It's meant for you to carry around. as you can see, it fits the palm of my hand. Their old kit was smaller. I probably liked it better, but this is great. I think I paid $40 or so for it. When you open it up, and it's got half pans of Cotman paints. And then this is a water vessel. And then these are the little water cups. And they hook on either end. And it comes with a teeny tiny brush. It's actually pretty good. I'm not going to pull it out of there. And then it's got more palettes and drawers underneath. So you've got lots of opportunity to do a lot of mixing in the field. There we go. That's a little better. And the other thing, and I've not played with these. Brad, you talked about water brushes today, didn't you? Brushes like this?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you fill these with water, so you don't even have to worry about your water vessel, correct?
Correct. That's the idea.
So I would just dip those in the pans and paint straight from there.
So do you just have watercolor paper in your journal for when you want to do the watercolor paintings, or do you have other paper that will take it?
That's a really good question, because the Moleskine paper won't take it. The Moleskine paper will crinkle. I mean, it'll crinkle and buckle. It'll take it, but it won't be pretty. So this journal, I made to take watercolors. This is one I'm giving away today, and it's got 110-pound all cotton paper, which will absorb that water without buckling and causing a lot of problems. Brad, do you know anything about journals that are good for watercoloring? You're using a spiral one, aren't you? I can't hear Brad. Is he talking?
He's muted.
He's muted. Brad, you're muted. I gotta.
There. My back.
Yeah, talking all the time, and I don't know it. Go ahead.
The one I have is just simply a sketchbook that I got at Prism years ago. It's got a fine quality paper in it, but it's, a multimedia. You can do anything on it. I wouldn't necessarily know if you can get watercolor journals. I suppose you can.
I'd certainly be happy to help people put them together.
A lot of people do the
Where are you? You've gone.
We lost him again. He's not muted.
I'm here.
Okay, I know.
I just didn't have anything more to say.
That's fair. That's probably a good thing for most of them. I'm not saying for you. I'll shut up. All right, so that's the watercolors, and I don't really think I need to demonstrate them. That'd be a whole other lesson, and I'm not any expert, but I do like to mess with them, and I think it's a tool that would be fun to pick up for anybody. It certainly isn't going to hurt you to have it and to use it for some things.
Hey, Jeff?
Yes.
Do you have any sample of using watercolor in your sketchbook you could show us?
Well, the one I showed last week. I did this in watercolor. This is no masterpiece, but this is what I talked about last week.
That's watercolor?
It is watercolor and pen and ink. So I guess I should address that. I really, I want to get that balance. There you go. I am really good at coloring when it comes to painting. And I remember even in a college art class, I would draw with ink, and back then it was India ink and a Pro Quill. Now we have nice markers that'll do it. But I'd draw in ink, and then I'd go through and highlight things with color. So all these things were drawn in ink. And then I went through with the watercolor, and I put some shadows in, drew these lines. Again, this is not any fantastic example. This is something I threw together just to show you last week. So we do have some great examples on the Facebook page, though. There were 2 or 3 of you that did some really phenomenal watercolors. And I don't want to call out any names because I'm going to forget somebody if I do that. But go to the Facebook page and go through people's submissions because there are some phenomenal watercolors.
Okay.
I was blown away by some of them, honestly. All right, so now we're going to get to drawing. And this week we're going to talk about birds. And birds are something I should know something about. I'm going to throw this down here. This is a carving. I want to just kind of give you an idea of where I go with this. This, I draw to learn. That's what this class is about. But I also draw to produce wood carvings. And if I dug deep enough, I could find the drawings for this. But this is a Blackburnian warbler. I saw this bird in the Adirondacks. I've carved it, I think, 3 times. One is actually in the Adirondack Museum. And my drawings are all about getting from what I see in the field and then whatever I get on the paper and then producing the bird. So I'm not drawing birds to draw birds. I'm not drawing birds to produce a painting. I'm drawing birds to get to this point. So they become patterns for my carvings. So, if you ever see a Blackburnian warbler, it's a great thing to see. Just going to grab a pile of just regular old copy paper. And I watched John Muir Laws today because I wanted to see what he had to say, and I thought it'd be good to have a refresher. And it was, but he changed this beginning to the way I've always done it. Before that, though, let's share. I don't have a good way to do this. But I'm going to show you an image, and if you have paper in front of you, I'd like you to draw this image. Nobody's going to look at it. Nobody's grading it. And I picked the Baltimore Oriole because we have so many of them in Indiana right now. We talked last week about Deanna having them at her house. So John Muir Laws, and I'm not trying to be him or teach like him, but in the class today, he gave us 1 minute to draw the first bird. Because in his point was, when you're in the field, you've got to be able to draw quickly because that bird's not going to sit still for you. In fact, at one point, he threw 5 birds at us probably in less than 5 minutes. I won't do that.
Hey, Jeff.
Yeah.
Joni needs to be let back in. She had internet issues.
Oh,
Do you see her?
She texted, and I don't have time to see it. I will respond to text later.
Okay. She got kicked out, so she needs to be invited back into the Zoom room. I think she might be in a waiting room.
We will fix that. She wasn't alone. Okay. I'm going to move that window where I can see it. That won't happen again. Thanks, Laura. Give you another minute or two. We're not looking for masterpieces. While you're drawing too, Brad and I talked about palettes and colors for watercoloring. And I sent him the paints that were in the Cotman kit that I have. And he had some suggestions for changing some of those colors. And I'll post those on the Facebook page so people can look at that. Now it's my dog barking.
I was going to say it ain't mine.
It's mine.
Mine are sleeping.
Yeah.
They got kind of tired of waiting on dinner.
This one barks at anything.
Isn't that delightful? I can't imagine you having a dog that didn't have something to say.
That's the way I need to look at it. I think our Bassett has something to say more than she does. He doesn't come
Yeah,
over.
Bassets know how to talk.
Yeah. Cindy talks.
You can't see that bird's feet.
Just a little bit.
You know, and I have a confession. In my carvings, my feet are wire, so I never draw feet.
Yeah. See, that's why you did that. I wondered about that.
Do that on purpose. I picked a bird I knew I could use with a copyright.
That's funny.
I guess I do have to give it credit. It's from the Cornell Ornithological Laboratory. Another website I need to recommend. I'll put that somewhere for you.
We saw, how common are Baltimore Orioles around here?
Very.
Well, I don't see them though, because I mean, I live in town, but at the farm yesterday, I was painting with my watercolor class at our farm and we saw 3 and we were just delighted.
So the place, Baltimore, and this is probably true of most birds, and I'm grotesquely generalizing, but Baltimore Orioles, for me, I've most often seen them at the fringes.
Uh-huh.
And what happens is the sunlight hits trees and my computer cord suddenly isn't working, and I'm running out of juice. Yeah.
Oh.
Problem solved when I do this. But there we go. The insects they eat become active when the sun hits them in the morning. So they really like the edge of the forest, the top of the forest where things heat up first. So my best luck of seeing Baltimore Orioles has been in the edge, where in the margins. And I think that's true of a lot of birds. When you're going from the fields at your farm to the woods that are on the edge, that's probably where you're most
That's kind of where we were, because we were painting across the field.
I used to see them at the old Key School along the fence row.
Yeah.
All right. So now I'm going to put myself on the line and I'm going to draw this bird, and I can't. I'm going to move. I guess I can. Well, I can't show you that. Oh my! I'll look from my phone. It's going to have to disappear for right now. I've not got good enough to do that.
Oh wait, where'd the bird go?
I took it. I took it. I'm sorry.
You gotta learn to take a picture of it with your phone.
There you go, Tab. I know that voice anywhere. But here I can put it back there.
That's all right.
Okay, so the first thing that I do is I look for the angle of that back. And the back to head. But in this case, there really isn't much difference. It's a straight line. I draw that line. John Muir Laws, where he changed it up. I learned this from him. When I draw this angle, this is just the body, not the tail. He now follows the back of the head and the neck, which is a slightly different line. It would be slightly more this way. And then I like to draw the body and the head, and I want to get those proportions right. And I'm not going to draw wonderfully here. This is not that kind of situation, but I'm just showing you how I would attack it. You've seen enough of my birds to know I can pull it off, whether I do it now or not. So there's that line. I'm going to draw a head, and I'm going to draw kind of a torpedo body. You don't want to get your body too long and skinny. You know, look at the bird, really get an idea of what it looks like, and then I get the beak angle. So there's the beak angle. Keep it really loose and really soft because I want to be able to change it. And then, so John Muir Laws, let me back up. This is me. This is how I draw. Quit mentioning his name. You've got to freeze that bird as quickly as possible, particularly in the field. But you want to get the same habit even in the studio because the same rules work. And then when you go out in the field and you're drawing birds, you have those habits in place. So you have priorities. The most important thing, if you're a bird watcher and you studied and read David Sibley's books and things, what's the first thing you look for? Size and shape. Is it bigger than a robin or smaller than a robin is the test. And what's it shaped like? And we all have in our mind, if we're birders, we have a set of birds. We know what a perching songbird looks like, which this is. We know what a seagull looks like, or a duck, or a raptor, or an owl. Those groupings we know. So you can generally put a bird into those groupings. And most of the time when people come to me and say, what is this bird? Almost always it's a songbird. Just in my experience. So the first thing you get is the posture and stance. That's what I've gotten. Then you go for the head and the bill angle, and I've got that. Now I'm going to look for that body, which I've already done. So there's the body, and I'm pretty happy with these proportions. The interesting thing to know too is that head can be anywhere. They can pull their head way down. They can pull their head way out. Again, watch the John. I'm going to mention him again, but watch the John Mayer's Laws video today. That's one thing he did really well is talk about head positions in bird. Keep walking the computer like you're over there. So then I'm going to start putting in some details. We'll look at the wing. Does it have a dropped wing or a lifted wing? And a Baltimore Oriole has a dropped wing in this posture, in this picture. I don't know Baltimore Orioles well enough to tell you what their wing stance is commonly. But think about a robin. Robin running around your yard. Wings are always dipped. Almost always dipped. They're always exception. So I'm just going to put a line roughly here to show where that wing is. And then the tail angle. And I do that old school, you know, where you hold your thumb out or you hold the pencil out. You got this angle for here. I'm going to come up with the tail. There's my tail angle. Then we talked about this last week with the shells. Once you have shape in, the details come easily. Don't get caught up with drawing the beak and then drawing the eye and then drawing the head and drawing back because you won't get the proportions right. And the proportions are the first thing to look at. So then I'm going to put in, well, this is why you do this in the studios, because I know what a Baltimore Oriole beak looks like. I've carved dozens, hundreds of them. I've drawn dozens of them. I know what they look like. So if I saw a Baltimore Oriole in the field, I wouldn't even need to see the beak to know how to draw it. It's a full, symmetrical beak. You draw, and then I'm going to draw in that line that goes back to the eye. And that is the eye line. In songbirds, the beak line goes, the eye sits right on top of the beak line. So you really only have to get the distance from the back of the beak to the eye is the only thing you have to get right, because you know it's going to be right on the line. And if you leave a little white, that glint, suddenly that bird's going to look much more alive than if you don't. And as I go through, I'm firming these lines up. And remember, I draw first in pencil, and then I go back with pen. So I'm still sketching. So now I want to get the head shape right. And I like some angularity, and that's stylistic. So I like to put some angles in there. And then I'm going to break that up a little bit. I don't want a solid line because I want the idea that there's feathers through there. And I've always drawn, even my architectural drawings are full of broken line. I think it adds interest. So then you establish that back. Now I'm going to go and establish the throat. So I'm going to go in, and I can see that there's a little half round in here. It comes back out a little bit. I exaggerated that. I'm going to pull that back a little bit, break up that line a little bit, then come back to that wing line. Tail, I'm not going to worry a whole lot about tail right now. We could talk about angles. That tail's angled that way. Give that a hard line. I'm just gonna come in here and firm this up so we can. I see there's a lot more down here than I have going on. So now I'm gonna come down and move that line a little bit. And then the leg, this shows one leg, Beth pointed out, comes out there. Now, legs and beaks. Legs do not start at the feather line of a bird. They start that leg started in there. You think about what a chicken you buy in the store looks like compared to a chicken in the field or behind you, whatever. Wherever you see live chickens, those legs are way up in there. We raised chickens for years. If you've ever picked one up, there's a mass of feathers before you get to body. Those legs are way up there. So you want to really think about that leg being rooted somewhere in here. You don't draw it that way because it's under the feathers. But that's going to help you get those angles right. Another thing, the mouth, the beak. A bird's beak is anchored about halfway between the eye and where you think it would be. So if you're going to draw, this is quick and dirty, but if you're going to draw its mouth open, it doesn't look like that. It comes way out here. And there's a little flat space in there. It's actually got a membrane on it. Terrible drawings, but I think you get the point. Got a branch coming through here. I don't draw feet a lot. I did when I read in the book. I could again, but not tonight. So anyway, that's the way I approached that bird. So what kind of observations can you make from the way you drew the bird, the way I did it? And you might have done a better job than I. All I can show you is how I do it.
So, just like you did, when I was drawing the bird, I went and drew the angle of the back and kind of a generalized head shape and body shape, and then connected from there.
Right.
My bird is too fat.
I just winged it.
Makes them cute, right?
Well, yeah, it's cute, but it's too fat. But there's no one in this house that ain't too fat, so it fits right in. But I think like I put the tail in the wrong place because I'm being maybe cartoonish. Like you think you have to see it a certain way.
Well, and we all fight that. We all have this perception the trees are brown and look like lollipops and the tails stick in this way. And one of the things that journaling can help you do, and drawing, even if you're not good at it, is help you really perceive things the way they really are rather than what you think they are in your head.
Yeah.
Now we could go on and talk about feather. I mean, this was the tip of the iceberg. I could go for 5 lessons talking about how to draw in feather groups and talk about how to draw the head so it looks round. You think of the head, you actually can draw latitude and longitude around the head so you get a sense of it being round. You can do that on the whole body if you really. And that would helps you get the angles right. You know, there's another wing over here. It would come in here somewhere. So there's a lot more to do than just this. But if you have an idea how to draw a basic songbird and practice it, it can be generic. When you go out in the field this week and you see a bird, you'll be able to draw it faster, more accurately, because you understand a little more of the anatomy. Anybody have anything else to say? We're running out of time, but we're probably gonna go way over, and that's fine. We can go 15 minutes up. Nothing? The quietest class I ever had.
The color.
You're also not.
Let's all talk at the same time now. Okay. My bird looks more like a pigeon.
Okay.
And I started with the head. That's where I started.
That's what people naturally do, so that's expected.
And kind of then went down its back. And then went back to the beak. But I have absolutely no knowledge of drawing, so I didn't know how to make those lines through there. That's great.
Well, now you know a little bit and can try it, right?
Yeah, right.
And there's a lot more to know, but yeah, and that's how you start.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody cares where we are in this process as long as we're all moving forward, right?
And I was kind of wishing he was facing the other direction. I
You know,
think
it's funny, 'cause in that class today, every single one of his birds was facing this way.
You
know,
probably can't draw it the other way.
Here's mine.
Better at drawing this way.
well, you're left-handed, so I can see why it would be easier for you. But I think right-handed people would rather draw the other direction.
The birds face every way.
Well, I know, but
They can even turn their heads around that way.
ooh, Tab Adams. I'd like to see that picture better.
Yeah, Tab.
Very nice.
Can you make that bigger?
Nice.
That's pretty.
I'm winging it.
You're winging it.
Too much. Can't take it.
Tab jumps in with both feet. There's no question about that.
For sure.
Both wings in this case. All right. So your homework this week is draw birds. I bet you saw that coming. You can draw, and people were drawing birds all last week too, but we had a lot of plants. We had some fossils too. Thank you, Joni. But you can draw from life. You can draw from photographs. You can go to references. I don't care what your sources are. The Audubon things I showed you. But I would really like to see people draw a lot of birds. I think I posted. It's going to come back to me. We're not looking at that anymore. Is that me? Yes, that's me. I posted a picture from one of my journals where I drew a crow. The whole page is full of crows. that are very symbolized, or I don't know, they're stylized, but they're facing lots of different directions, lots of different poses. And I like to sit down and get a bird in as many different poses as I can, because I want to be able to have fluidity in the different directions. I don't want to be tied in to profiles every single time. So those are how you make carving patterns for sure. All right. Are you ready for the big drawing?
Yeah.
So we had I forget how many, almost 30 people do their homework. I don't think I ever got my results were ever that high when I taught school.
Did you get mine in there, Jeff?
I did get yours in there. And Jamie, notice I have a shaker box.
Bravo, that is beautiful.
Jamie works at Sabbath Day Lake, the Shaker Village in Maine. It's the only Shaker Village that still has real live shakers. And it's a wonderful place. I teach with her in the summers, hopefully until October at least.
Yeah.
We're optimistic. We're hopeful. How's that? Oh. I've got all your names in here. I'm not going to cheat. I tried to get Moxie to pull one out. She wouldn't do it. It's Joni.
Yay!
Back Boo Benzer. It's funny because I talked to her this afternoon and almost teased her and said, "You're going to win this," but that was not the intent. So congratulations, Joni. I will have another journal next week. So turn in your work. We'll do another drawing, and we'll see where this leads. I would really like to see this continue as an informal group or more classes. I don't know. We'll explore that, and I'll talk to Mark about some of those things too. So I would really like to see your drawings on Facebook. We can continue those talks. I'm going to do a mini lesson Tuesday or Wednesday. I will talk about inclusions, adding things to your journal to collect specimens or to make them more interesting, maybe tell a story. Structures like this accordion book. I don't know. I'm running out of things to say. Anybody have things to share or questions? I can read through the messages, which I've not seen.
Remind me how to turn in homework.
You post it on the on the Facebook page that is Nature Journaling - the workshops of G.B. Davis.
Okay.
Yeah, that's that.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm learning stuff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
I'm excited.
Lucky you.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Joni. I wondered if it would be me who won because it was a cowbird.
I
on
thought
the front
the
of
same
journal.
thing.
I'm like, that's mine. That's going to be mine.
I thought that. I thought you made the cowbird.
All those cowbird discussions.
Laura, I love cowbirds too.
Just the sound of it, Kim, it was just so weird. I've never heard that before. Like this bloop, bloop sound. And I'm like, what is dripping around here?
I've heard that described as their water call.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It was
Blue Jays
really
do
cool.
it too.
I haven't seen it since then, but you know.
They always puff themselves up in front of my sliding glass door because I have a feeder on the door. And so they sit on it and they puff up and they make that little sound. It's funny.
Oh my gosh, it's the coolest thing. What other birds have crazy calls like that? I mean, just really off the wall, weird ones. You think of any?
Sora, bitter.
You know there's someone different in the neighborhood when that happens.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Well, Blue Jays are fascinating because they have so many calls. They can do, the Blue Jays at our yard will come down to the feeder and do the red-tailed hawk call. And all the birds call.
Impressions. They're doing impressions.
The feeder all to themselves.
They're like stand-up comedians of the bird world.
Right.
Boy, they're not funny.
No, they're mean.
They are mean.
And they're completely graceless.
But they're so pretty, though. You gotta admit, they're pretty.
Pretty is as pretty does.
All right. Well,
I
that's
gotta, I gotta go watch the John Muir Laws now. So you guys.
Yeah.
have a good one.
Bye, everyone.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. It's
Bye.
inspiring.
Thank you, Jeff.
See you later.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.